This week we've got a special edition of Park It at Home with Tops, celebrating Blue Week with the Toledo Library at the King Road branch. I'm standing here in the native plant installation garden at the King Road Library, which is a partnership between Lucas County Library, the Toledo Zoo, and the Toledo Metro Parks. And this project was intended to help the library with stormwater management and also with reduce some maintenance around the grounds. But it also is a great way to showcase the awesome native plants that grow in the Oak Openings region, as well as attract pollinators to the area and have some good pollinator habitat. Right now it's a little bit unspectacular just because it's early spring and there's not really anything blooming, but stop by in July or August and it will be super amazing. If you're interested in attracting more butterflies or birds to your yard, native gardens are really a great way to do that, but you'll probably want to start with something just a little smaller than this. We don't often think of birds as pollinators, but they do a great job of spreading around pollen and also eating insects in our gardens that we don't want there. And here's one way to attract them.
Hi everyone, my name is Franco. I'm a librarian with the Toledo Lucas County Public Library, and I'm here today to give you an idea about a craft that you can do to celebrate Blue Week at home.
We'll be making an egg carton bird feeder. To get started, you'll need a paper egg carton, scissors, a hole punch, yarn or string, and some birdseed. Step 1 is going to be to cut up our egg carton, and you really want to make sure to use a paper carton instead of a styrofoam one. We want to be as eco-friendly as possible. We'll remove the top and any odds and ends. And then once you do that, you can cut up the sections of the carton. You can use 1, 2, 3, 4, really have as many as you want, even the whole egg carton if you wanted. For our purposes today, I'm just going to use one section of the egg carton, and that will be my bird feeder. Now we need to take our hole punch and just punch a hole onto either side of the carton piece. That way we'll be able to push your string through and hang our bird feeder. Then we'll grab our scissors and some string and cut a piece about a foot in length. After that, we'll thread the string through the holes in the egg carton. You can always put some tape at the end of your string to make it a bit easier to go through. But otherwise you can just do as I do here, pull it through each end and then pull it nice and tight, and that's going to be the section that hangs the bird feeder to whatever we're hanging to. And that's it. This is a nice, easy, simple craft that you can do within a few minutes. You can also decorate the carton like I did here with some paint. Make sure just to use any bird-friendly materials. And that's it. When you're all done, fill the bird feeder with some seed and hang it outside and look for birds. I hope you guys have a great time at home celebrating Blue Week. Stay safe, and for more library resources, visit us online at toledolibrary.org.
So pollinators are really important to us because they help provide us with at least a third of all the food we eat. So if it's a fruit or vegetable, it needs a pollinator. And so native gardens can help out our pollinators by providing them with an oasis where they can get food and shelter and lay their eggs and then rear the next generation of pollinators. So why would we want more pollinators in our yards? One of the things that pollinators do for us is to help boost our vegetable garden. So the pollinators are using our vegetable flowers for nectar, but they're also passing pollen from plant to plant, so that means that our vegetable yields are going to be way more robust with more pollinators available. Pollinator gardens are also a great educational tool. If you have little kids, it's a great way, or even older kids, it's a great way to talk about flowers and how pollination happens and how plants grow. It's even great to talk about pollinators in general. So you'll be able to look at what kind of pollinators you attract to the garden, figure out what species they are, all sorts of options for educational opportunities in your native plant garden. So as I already mentioned, native gardens are great for attracting a large diversity of insects to pollinate your flowers, but also those insects will eat the insects you don't want on your vegetable gardens or your other more formal gardens. So that's another great reason to add diversity to your garden with a native plant garden. So when you start thinking about installing a native plant garden, you're going to want to use the acronym BRASH to kind of work through how you're going to do it. It's a great place to start, and it's a lot of good principles to keep in mind when you are designing and planning a garden. So the B in BRASH stands for border. It's really important to make sure you have a border around your native garden so that it is defined, not just for you, but for your neighbors, and it doesn't just look like a weed patch. There's a lot of times through the year where native gardens can look a little messy, and so making sure you have a border that defines it as a garden will help you as you acclimate your neighbors to your new garden bed. R is for recognizing the rights of others. Again, you probably live in a neighborhood and you'll want to be aware of perceptions that your neighbors might have of gardens. Some people like just grass, some people like very formal beds, and native gardens tend to be a little wild and woolly. So you want to make sure that if you have very sensitive neighbors, that maybe you would want to locate your garden in your backyard. If you have neighbors who like gardens but you are unsure about their reception of it, maybe put it, in the center of your yard or further away from their yard. But just consider how your neighbors are going to feel about your garden as you're planning for your design and location. A is for advertise. Again, native gardens, they go through a period in the spring where they don't look like they're doing anything. So it's really important that you advertise what your garden is. Make a sign with butterflies on it so people know that you're attracting pollinators. Perhaps have a conversation with your neighbors just to let them know what you're doing. All of these ways to educate folks. If you're going to put in a native garden, you are becoming an ambassador for native gardening, and so it's really important that we are conscientious about how we do this work. So this is probably the most important principle in starting a native garden, and that is start small. Ideally, you would want to start with a 4x4 or smaller garden that would require about 20 plants. And it would be easy to install and it would be easy to manage. Native gardens are not maintenance free, so there still will be weeding. There might be mulching. So you want to pick a size that's manageable for you, and you can always make it bigger. But I would start smaller. So the H in BRASH is humanize, and again, it's really more about communicating. So once your garden is installed, maybe put in a bird bath or put in a butterfly bath like Danielle suggested in her video earlier this week, or put a bench next to it, put a garden sculpture in it. That again defines it as a garden. It helps people recognize it as a garden. Adding those kind of elements create a sense of welcome, and it provides you another opportunity to engage with your neighbors over what you're doing and why. Thanks for joining us for Blue Week in the Oak Openings region. If you'd like to find out more about what's going on this weekend in the Oak Openings, just visit our webpage at oakopenings.org, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.